Hey y'all, and welcome to Culture Cult, where we are one podcast with 197 countries to explore stories and history from. I'm your host, Marie, and this week we are doing travel stories. So that's when you send in your best travel stories to be read aloud, and we hear from guests on their favorite travel stories also. So send in your favorite travel stories to our email, culturecultshow@gmail.com. And remember to comment, rate, and subscribe to the show. Cheers and enjoy. Hey y'all, I am so excited for this episode today. We have something really special going on. We are deep diving and exploring culture in a way we really haven't before. And that's because of our special guest coming on today. She has a background in marriage and family therapy. Thank you. And really uses her roots as an Arab American to bring light into how important heritage and culture is into our daily and interpersonal lives. So today we have Elizabeth Shahid coming on. Hi.
Hey, Marie.
Thank you for helping me with that. I don't know why I couldn't say that.
It's all good. It's all good. It's complicated. There's so many different titles for like mental health people.
I was like marriage and I couldn't get it out. But just for some perspective for the listeners, so you are Dalal's sister. Dalal was on our Crazy Cruise story. She's gonna be on a lot of our episodes on Palestine. Yeah, she's on a lot for this season, and you're his sister. It's kind of crazy that y'all are both therapists, though. I just realized that. No, you said I know.
It is kind of crazy. I mean, you know, like people are like, "Oh, y'all are sisters. Y'all should do a business together." I'm like, "Yeah, maybe we'll see."
But like, how did that happen? There's two therapists. I mean, you have a brother, but Ricky's not a therapist. That would actually be weird. I'm like, is everything okay?
Yeah, Ricky's a comedian or an actor. But yeah, I don't know how that happened. We think alike.
Yes.
And like we're interested in some of the same things and she got interested. It's nice because we get to talk like about different theories and ideas and concepts that like, you know, it's fun to talk to my sister about everything, you know? And, I mean, growing up, like I thought to be a counselor or a therapist because I was like, how do we resolve problems? Like, you know, our family, we fought a lot and there were moments where we didn't get along. And I was like, how do we resolve these? I was just so curious. And so I went to school because I wanted to figure it out. Like, how do you help people?
And since y'all are both therapists, what kind of style do you bring to your clients? What do you bring to the table?
I just bring myself and, you know, and a lot of counseling, a lot of mental health perspective is diagnosing and labeling and finding problems. And I don't really like to do that. I'm not here to find your problems. I'm here to help you with your problems.
Yes.
So I don't tell you, oh, look, that sounds like a problem. Like they tell me what they want out of therapy and we just work together to make a change.
In a way, you're a reflection to them and not like a doctor where it's like, this is an issue. This is the only step to solve it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just a guide and reflection to whatever they're saying back to you. And I really wanted you on today because I know this is a culture podcast, a travel podcast. It's people probably like, okay, what are we doing? Like,
right, you're talking about therapy.
I know. They're like, I didn't ask for this. but I really wanted you on today because I think culture can go beyond the subject of traveling. I think that's the baseline. If we could keep it there or we could dive deeper. And I think there's some bigger ideas and topics that I want to discuss. And I think in the perspective of therapy and self-reflection would be the best way to talk about it. So that's going to work. We're going to deep dive into ways to connect with your ancestors, different views of what community means and how to be a more kinder person to others and ourselves. And since this is a travel story episode, we are going to end on one of your travel stories.
Okay.
So it's a loaded episode with deep questions, but also we're going to end on a really cool travel story that you have. But before we get into all that, let's start with basic questions. I mean, where are you from? What's your origin?
Okay. I'm from Shawanoki and Muskogee Territory, which is currently known as the state of Alabama.
I love that. Can you dive into that a bit more?
Yes. So ethnically, my family is Middle Eastern. So my dad is Lebanese, my mom is Palestinian. And, you know, with the history of the Palestinians, I have an understanding of, you know, what it's like to be, well, not me personally, I was born in America, but, you know, I know the history about losing your land and being, you know, oppressed on your own land and being like, the history of the Palestinian people is being kicked out pretty much. And so with that knowledge, with that understanding, I am now better able to understand the experiences of the Native Americans.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, of course, I'm not Native American. I don't know a lot of their history and I don't, you know that experience, but I feel like I can relate a little bit.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I think it's only respectful and it would be hypocritical of me if I didn't acknowledge the land that was stolen from them.
Yes.
I looked up from, I think it's called nativeland.net.
Okay.
I believe that's what it's called. I can give you that website later. And so you type in your zip code or you type in where you're at, and it tells you what they believe that territory was.
Oh man.
So what I found was Shawanwaki, and I don't even know if Shawanwaki, I think is how you say it, and Muskogee.
Okay. Okay. That is so interesting. Yeah. I'm going to look that up and see like what area LA used to be, which I know it used to be mainly just horses and orange trees. And now you got Hollywood. So
yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, so different.
I know. So, but I love that. I love that you said that. I mean, what is something people maybe not realize? Cause I know you said you're Palestinian and you're Lebanese. Like what is something people don't realize about how you grew up also with that culture, but in Alabama? Like what's something you can share?
With that culture in Alabama, what it was like. I don't think anybody knows there's Arabs in Alabama.
No. When I tell people that, they're like, what? People don't realize there's a lot of Middle Eastern people in Birmingham, where we're from. We went to a Middle Eastern church. So I don't think people, I don't know, don't think they realize that Alabama has
they really
that.
don't.
No.
Like, and I really think it's because of so many things. Like, I think like we as a community like to stick together a lot.
That's natural.
And like we have our Christian community of Arabs and Middle Eastern people who, and actually like, I technically shouldn't even be saying Arabs. We should be saying like SWANA. Do you know what that means?
No, what is that?
SWANA stands for Southwest Asian and North Africa. And it's a way to identify that region that's known as the Middle East and North Africa in a less colonial way.
Wait, so saying Middle Eastern is not good?
Well, Middle Eastern was identified by the colonists who were like, oh, that's the middle of the East.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right. But if I say Arab too, it's like the Arabs is one group of people who migrated into that region. But there's so many other types of people, Phoenicians, Canaanites, like so many different. And so if I was just to say Arabs, it's like saying everyone is like one thing, right?
Yeah.
So I should really be saying SWANA.
SWANA? Okay.
Yeah, SWANA.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's so interesting. Yeah. And
but anyway,
no. And I wanted to dive into where you're from and where we're from. And people don't know there's SWANA people there. But back to therapy. Can you really dive in again one more time about what kind of therapy you do? I know I read on your website, it says narrative therapy and like explain your business a bit.
Okay. So narrative therapy is just a model of how to do marriage and family therapy. And it's not like I stick to just that. It's one that I like, and I like to use a lot of techniques from. So the whole idea of narrative therapy is that your problems exist, that we kind of see our life like as a story. You have all these experiences in your life that have kind of shaped yourself, that have kind of shaped your problem. And so in narrative therapy, we kind of use that idea, and I'm helping to co-author people's stories and to create a story that they want.
Yeah. I love that. Create a story that they want.
But yeah, and there's so many different things that can affect your story or your problem. For instance, if I'm experiencing something and I see like a billboard that's like, get rid of your wrinkles or, something that might add into my story and tell me whatever I'm going through is wrong or bad, or like I'm getting old, I need Botox, or, I'm fat and ugly. And so we're getting a lot of messages from everywhere.
Yes.
And so part of my job, if I was working with narrative therapy, is to address like, where are these messages coming from that have changed your story, that have changed that and created a problem, I
like how you said message. It's because that's all we get all day is influences and messages. And how do you stay true to yourself through that? That's so interesting. And what is your business called?
Your Story Therapy LLC. And I'm in Alabama. And of course, people can follow me and look at my website and contact me if they like. But at this time, I can only do therapy with people in Alabama.
I mean, I do have a good population of listeners from Alabama. So that still works. Yeah. And awesome. I definitely wanted to get into, I was talking earlier about labeling. And so I've done therapy my whole life, but I first went to a psychiatrist. That was an awful experience. She like prescribed me stuff and was telling me I was all these things. And I didn't feel like I was all those things. I mainly went for OCD, which people think is like cleaning your house, but it didn't actually feel like I was learning anything until I went to University of Alabama, and Dela was in marriage and family therapy. And I didn't know that you could pay like $5 and students were going to be your therapist. And I'm sure some people are like, I don't want that. But honestly, that is what changed my life. These people were learning from your program and things just broke from there. I learned so many epiphanies because they were listening instead of labeling. I wasn't OCD. I wasn't all this stuff. It's like, oh, well, this happened to you, so that makes sense. And then ever since then, I've just been going to universities and doing marriage and family therapy. So I currently have one. Her name's Alex. She's amazing. And I highly recommend that to anyone. If you think, oh, I can't afford therapy or I've had a bad experience, I think marriage and family therapy is the way to go. And check out your local college and you can get a grad student to do it.
Right. And the thing about that is that it's not like you just have this random student that, you know, I mean, they might not know what they're doing, but they have their teachers watching and monitoring and even recording the session. So that way they can give feedback. Yeah. So I mean, it is about helping the client, you know?
Yeah, I do recommend. So I just wanted to explain marriage and family therapy a bit more and how it affected my life. And I just, it was a game changer for me.
Can I say something about that? So the term marriage and family therapy, like it sounds like it's for marriages and families only, but it's really not. It's for, the term kind of describes how we think about problems. Like we think about problems in relationships. Like, what is the person's relationship to anxiety, to traveling, to a clean home, to their best friend, you know, in relationship to the problem or to whatever.
Yeah. It sounds like more personal. Like you can actually get to understand the person more. And it's not just like, oh, they're a checkbox of things. Like, you hit these 3 categories, therefore you are this.
And it's definitely more complex. And I'm not going to say like other counselors and other psychologists are not doing really good therapy too.
Yeah.
It's just what I like.
Yeah. And it's just a different style. And it worked for me.
Different style.
Yeah. But yeah, just to connect that back to culture and travel, on your Instagram page, you talk a lot about connecting with one ancestors. Like, let's walk through that. Like, how can we connect better to our ancestors, especially if you didn't really get to grow up with your origin or culture?
Yeah. Okay. So I was first introduced to this topic when I found this person named Jennifer Mullen, Dr. Jennifer Mullen, and she has this Instagram page and she kind of like coined the term decolonizing therapy.
Oh.
And so I am not the professional at this, but I have just learned from her and from several other people out in the world of Instagram and you know, I've found all these other people. So, but from Jennifer Mullen, she's really focused on ancestors and connecting with them to kind of heal yourself or to feel connected with yourself and to kind of like dissolve problems in your life. So not every client that comes to me wants to work on this stuff.
Yeah.
But I might bring it up to them if, you know, if it's something that I think they might benefit from and see if they can connect with that. But for me personally, it brings me a peace and it kind of like calms my anger that I have sometimes for like the state of the world to feel like I'm connecting with my ancestors.
Yeah.
So for instance, like, you know, like I can be on my phone a lot. This is my personal problem. I'm on my phone a lot and it disconnects me from people. And for me, part of like my mental health is being connected to people.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think about like, how did my ancestors connect to people? You know, they would spend time doing things together, cooking together in our kitchen, in my family's kitchen. That's what we do. We hang out in the kitchen, we cook, we eat, we talk, we laugh, we joke, we sing. And that's how our ancestors did. Like my Middle Eastern ancestors, they would work together in a community. And it's in those moments when I can kind of like center or rejuvenize myself from like a hard, you know, week or work or experience or whatever.
And I think in lots of Western culture, it's so individualized, which is good in a lot of ways, but it is more isolating. And I don't think sometimes that is TV for other people, for other families. Let's all sit on the TV, which is not really connecting. I mean, some people don't really get to know their culture like that. And it's like it's honestly a privilege to get to be passed down that.
Yeah, it is definitely. Because there's so many people who don't know what their history is. You know, I think that's why the gene testing is so popular.
Yeah.
Because people don't know what they are. And then when they find out, they're like, oh, we can like research like what was in our past. But it does. It kind of gives you a sense of grounding. Like you're connected to the rest. We're all connected to each other. And you can find some peace knowing that, you know, your ancestors went through something difficult or, you know, did something to put you where you're at today.
Yeah. It's so weird. So, I a really weird way I connect with my ancestry. And I don't even
Yeah.
know much about my ancestry. All I know is like I'm a mix of a lot of stuff, but I do have Lebanese heritage. And
Yeah.
it's this, I don't know the connection to this. I don't understand why I know and feel this, but when I dance, I naturally know how to belly dance. And that's not technical belly dancing. I know we did that in our church. I never took the classes, but I don't know how to explain it. Like when I dance, I can literally feel like past people moving my body. That sounds so weird, but it's like I can feel, I don't know, I'm like natural at it. But I'm not, what I'm doing isn't technical belly dancing. If I turned to class, I could actually do it. But it's so strange. Like that's kind of how, that's why I love dancing.
Like you're feeling the music.
Yeah.
You're like becoming one with it. It's like you're expressing it through your body.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel that like, I just wonder if there's some ancestors that did it. I know my aunts used to belly dance, but I don't know how far back it goes because it feels so natural to me.
Yeah.
No classes.
Well, in Middle Eastern culture, like dance is a huge part of it. Dance is involved in like celebrations of people's weddings, celebrations, even the small celebrations. Like if, we cook something that's really delicious and we're like proud of it, or I take a bite of my grandmother's food and I'm like, so good. Excuse me. Oh, it's so good. And I like shimmy or something. And, and I'm expressing how delicious it is. I'm like, happy my grandmother made it. But that's what our ancestors did. Like when they were out there picking the food and trying to prepare a meal and lighting the fire to cook the meal, or the women were gathering the children up. Like they were some people from one area of land were like singing to the people in the other area of land, back and forth. Oh my God,
that's so beautiful.
And that's what connected people, singing, dancing, like. And so, when you dance and you feel your ancestors there with you, that's totally like,
that's what it feels like. And maybe that's the best way to connect. Let's say you didn't grow up with a culture that you can really just dive into. Maybe there's some subliminal, like, I don't know, energy that flows through you that you don't realize is your ancestors. Maybe like you're a fantastic cook, but you've never taken lessons. Maybe because you have ancestors who were cooks, you have ancestors who dance, you have ancestors. And maybe if you don't know your culture, maybe look at things that you're very natural at, and maybe it comes from your blood.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point.
Because I don't know how to belly dance, but I can, though I don't know how to technically do it. It just feels so natural to me.
Yeah.
And okay, so can you tell us about some unique perspectives or struggles that you may have kind of being in two worlds, like the Eastern and Western worlds growing up? Yeah. I know lots of listeners I have, I know they have come talk to me about this, reached out to me saying like, I really liked when you talked about how you're mixed or you are second generation and you're kind of tied between two worlds. So what's some struggles or unique perspectives that you may have?
So I'm a second generation or even third. My mom was born here. My dad was born here. So, and my dad's grandparents were from the Middle East and my mom's parents. So, so I'm very much influenced by American life and American culture, but growing up, I didn't really have any words to explain. Like I didn't really understand what was happening, but looking back, I can see like I did feel different. I felt like I had to act differently at school than I would at home. My family, we interrupt each other and we talk over and we're loud.
Yeah. It's so
but
funny.
then I go to school and we're not allowed to do that. You got to raise your hand and like, the kids were talking about things that I wasn't familiar with talking about at home. I remember thinking like, I listen to Arabic music at home. Yeah. And I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, I want to hear this music. And so then we started listening. She was like, oh yeah, we'll listen to that. And we started listening to like Disney Channel kids on the radio. And that's where I got, exposed to stuff. And then like, same thing, like with foods and with like different stuff that they would watch. Like I wasn't as exposed to things like they were. So I did feel always different. And my mom had like this distrust for people, like my whole family though, like kind of like we have a community and this is our community. And I was allowed to spend the night at my cousins' homes. But when it came time to kids at school, I could go hang out with them for their birthday. But when all the girls got to sleep over, my mom came and picked me up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And this kind of gave me this mindset that like, I'm different. Like we're not like them. They're not like us.
It's interesting. She wouldn't let you assimilate and actually hang out with them.
Now I assimilate. I'm American. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I have an American mindset.
God bless.
I am, but I also have a lot of the Arabic in me that I had to growing up. I realized, like this part of me is really influenced by being Arabic or Swana. See, and I didn't realize that until later. Also, I always thought I was white.
Mm.
So I was like, I'm white.
Yeah.
But I would ask friends, like, as I got older, people were telling me, like, you're not white. We don't see you as white. And I'm like, really? I always thought I was white. And then I started to realize, like, embracing that. I don't look Arabic enough. I'm not
that's
Arabic
what I think
enough.
a lot of people relate to.
Yeah.
If they're mixed or if they're second, third generation, they can't be in both worlds. They are not, let's say, in white enough in a certain culture, but they're not Asian enough. They're not Black enough. They're not. And it's like, well, where the fuck do I fit in?
Yes, exactly.
Like, that must be so confusing.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's like some sort of identity crisis, honestly. It's like, well, then who do I relate with? How do I, what do I call myself? You can't be labeled.
Well,
yeah,
it is very complicated. It's very confusing. Like, I think of like Selena. Have you ever seen the movie Selena?
Yeah.
Where the dad's like, you have to be more Mexican than the Mexicans and more American than the Americans. It's exhausting. I think about that. And it's true. You feel like you don't fit in with the American white community or culture. You don't fit in with the Arab culture. And it feels like you have to choose. And it feels like you have to label. But you don't have to.
Yeah.
You really don't have, you can hold both at the same time. And you can choose if you want. I mean, if I was to be like, no, I'm white, I'm not Arabic. Like, if I was to ignore that entire part of me, you're cutting off something that created who you are today.
Yeah. Or I wonder, I'm talking outside of my own perspective, but what do you do if like you are trying to hang out with your Arab friends or maybe your Black friends or your Asian friends, and you can just feel that pressure of like, why are you calling yourself Arab? Why are you calling yourself Black? I feel like that's a lot of people's perspective if they try to relate to that one sided culture. Because I think, when they try with white culture, they'll get made fun of sometimes. If they try to go back to their other culture, it's like, you're not my skin tone. You don't speak my language. It's like, what do you do if you're like, well, I am Asian, but I don't know Korean. Like, I'm learning. I didn't happen to grow up with it. Therefore, am I Korean? I feel like that's a second pressure.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I feel that sometimes too. That's where I'm talking about, like, I don't feel Arab enough because I don't know the language like my family members do. I know a little bit, but I don't know enough. If I was to go into a community of people who were speaking Arabic, I would be lost. And so like what happens when I feel like that is I feel left out. I feel like I don't belong. I want to run away. And I also, some part of me wants to talk bad. Like that was kind of rude of them to speak Arabic and like to not speak English. Like, how dare they, not include me in this conversation. But at the end of the day, just because you don't know the language doesn't take away the fact that my blood is Arab, that I grew up in this Arab community and even if I didn't, like, I think it's also a problem for people in the community to judge others who don't look like us or don't sound like us or don't know as much as us, to judge them for not being Arab enough. And in those situations, like, because I've been on both sides where I don't feel Arab enough and also feel like you're not Arab enough.
So, I mean, what if someone doesn't want to connect their culture because they're ashamed because they're past? And a good example of this is one of my favorite podcasts. It's called Armchair Expert. Dax Shepard, he's an actor. It's really pretty much therapy with celebrities. It's very interesting. So the co-host, she talks about her shame being Indian and not wanting to connect because she got made fun of growing up. And then I also know some people personally who they just don't want to be connected to their Indian culture, which hurts me because I love Indian culture, but I don't know, I can't understand it. But a lot of people, they're ashamed of their culture. Like, what's a good way to get past that? Like, to maybe look at your culture in a new light?
Yeah. So I'm not an expert on this, but in my personal opinion, to me, like, being ashamed might come from that judgment that I was talking about, that one culture in the land of another culture, and you're doing like a comparison about, one is better than the other. And we're getting messages about so many things. And some of those messages are, you don't want to have dark skin. Another message is you don't want to have an accent. Like accents are weird. That could be a message that you're receiving. These could be messages. And when you receive those messages, you become embarrassed and ashamed of the way you speak, and you change the way you talk so you fit in.
Yeah.
And you might even stay out of the sun so that way you don't get any darker. Yeah. And you might even have this sense of self-hatred that you're not even aware of. Like you can't find any clothes to wear because you hate the way it looks on your body. And that might be this message that you've been receiving all your life, that like fatness is bad, or like the shape of your body, your nose is, ugly, or even your skin tone, or, and a lot of those judgments could be from that American culture that you were raised in. I mean, it could, I'm assuming, like, why else would you be ashamed of your Indian
American culture
heritage?
is so weird because this is not our land. We all came from somewhere, stole land from people. Yeah. And then we are all like, now we all need to be the same. It's like, wait, what? How is someone from China supposed to have the same personality, look, and act just like someone from Ireland? After just a couple of generations, we're like, this is white. This is how you act. It's like, wait, we all came from somewhere. This isn't even our land. And if anything, to be American is to keep with your heritage, love coming from India, love coming from China, love coming from these places. I think that's actually American than trying to assimilate into this vague whiteness. What is white?
Yeah.
What is American?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's impossible to be just like pure American, because like America is a mix of so many different communities and cultures and stuff. And there's definitely like an ideal, I think, that everyone's striving to be, and who chooses what that is,
I don't know. But
like how do you...
Yeah, exactly. So I think maybe the answer to that is just, it's a power to be from another culture, I think, and just to try to connect with that and try to look at it in a different light. Maybe, let's say if you're ashamed of being something, just try to find a movie or music that gets you excited again. Just find something that re-spark that, or go find a community of people that are from your culture. To re-spark that. And I mean, what is something that you want to pass on to keep your culture alive? If like you have kids, or if your Delal has kids or someone, like, what would you want to pass on?
Oh my God. I want to pass on as much as I can. Yeah. Definitely food. And that's a problem because I don't cook many Arabic foods, but I know how. I have the recipes written down.
Yeah, same.
I got to get in the habit of doing it. So like, I want to pass those on. I want to pass the music and dance.
Yes.
And if I could, the language that I do know.
Yes.
The stories.
Oh yeah.
History. And I especially want to pass down like being proud of it. Like it is so easy to become ashamed of your culture. But I think with understanding of the different perspectives, understanding of history and the things that those people went through can kind of help you to like kind of forgive and understand why these things have come about. And then to be proud rather than ashamed.
Yeah, pride. If you go ahead and show your children like this is a prideful thing to be into our culture, it's going to give them a better base and honestly defense mechanism when they go to these schools and they're like, ew, what is that? What are you eating?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you so tan or whatever, pale, whatever?
Yeah.
It gives you a defense mechanism.
I mean, it was hard. It was hard as a kid. Like I didn't understand it fully. My mom didn't explain any of this to me. Like I just had to figure this out.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing, because I was exposed to Arabic food, when I would see someone else make fun of their food, like for instance, like if somebody in my class was Filipino and someone was making fun of their food, I would never make fun of their food because I got different food.
Yeah.
I would be like, let me try, like, let me try that. Let me try it. You want to try some of mine? Like, let's change. But when I would see someone making fun of somebody for that, I would see that and go, oh, I don't want them to see my food. And not only that, not only do I not want them to see my food, but I don't want them to make fun of me. And therefore, then I start to shame that person. Like this is something easily that could happen. I start to then ostracize that other person, that Filipino person, for being made fun, because I don't want to be made fun of. Don't look at me.
Yeah, so you know, join the crowd.
Join
like,
the crowd.
What is that? Like, meanwhile, you're hiding your baklava.
Yeah. And then years later, yeah, exactly. And then years later, I'm like, oh, I can't bring that food to school. Like, oh no, I'm not bringing my Arabic food. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm ashamed.
Yes.
When it was their fault for saying this is wrong, this is bad, this is the smell, like it's too smelly.
Oh my God. First of all, Arabic food is like the best. So all those kids missed out.
I'm biased. Yeah.
And I'm a bias too. But
yeah.
Yeah. So, but also I wanted to get into maybe a wider subject. So you have a super interactive Instagram and I love it. You're constantly making
thanks.
videos and explanations on cultures. That's why even if you're not in Alabama and you can't maybe have you as a therapist, you could absolutely follow your Instagram because I feel like I learned so much on there about stuff. And you had I'm always like your number one. I'm like liking and commenting.
You're so sweet. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I remember you have this super cool video of you walking through the woods and explaining how trees are a great example of collectivist culture. What is collectivist culture? What was that video about with the trees?
Oh my gosh. You're so sweet. Okay. So I was just on a hike and I was looking at the roots and how on the path, on the trail, the roots were just all throughout. And I was like, and there's trees on the side, the left and the right side of me, but roots were just everywhere in the trail. And I thought, which tree? Like all these trees look skinny. Like, I'm like, whose roots are these? And then I started to imagine, like, how could we figure that out? Like picking it apart and figuring out. And I was like, it's kind of amazing that all these roots are intertwined. And it made me think of my family and collectivist cultures. And in collectivist cultures, it's the opposite of like American, where how you said, very individualistic, like me, this is not good for me. So I'm going to separate myself from that. I want to do this. And I don't care what you want to do because I'm protecting me and my peace. And so you do you and I do me. But in collectivist cultures, it's much more connected where it's like, what you do affects me and affects our community. And so nothing wrong with that, but it can cause some confusion. So with the root system, it made me think about that this tree is intertwined with this other tree and with this other tree. And it's so intertwined, it's kind of confusing. And that's what can happen sometimes in collectivist cultures when you now have an understanding of individualism. You can kind of be like, wait, I'm understanding me as a person and who I am and what I want, but I feel like I'm so intertwined and connected with all these other people and all these other roots. And it can be really confusing. Like, should I pull out of that? Should I stay in that? Like staying in that makes my family happy. Staying out of that could make me happy, but then I'm missing something. I grew up around these roots. I grew up connected. So I feel like I feel torn between which is right for me. And so those roots being connected, I was explaining that kind of about boundaries and how and how sometimes setting a boundary, like you can uproot a tree out of its community and plant it in the middle of a place where there's no other trees and it might thrive and it might grow, but it also might not because it was so used to living with these other trees that were also providing nutrients to it. And we're also working together in a community. And if there was a tree there that was like really low down and not getting a lot of sunlight and all the roots were kind of taking over and suppressing that tree, that would be bad, right? Like the tree would die and not be able to live and thrive. But that doesn't necessarily that would be bad.
How do you create boundaries? And when you are in a collectivist culture, like I know, say like Arab culture, everything is together. And like we all need to do this and think this way in a way. And that's freaking awesome in a lot of ways. But I think a good example is, what do you do if you're in a culture like that? Let's say, man, I do want to be kind of more independent. I want to have my own space, but then I'll miss out on family time. I'll miss out growing up with my parents. But I just know that's very common in a lot of places in the world.
Honestly, it's different for everyone. You can't give a one size fits all approach to this. And that's why if someone's struggling, it would be a good idea to meet with somebody who's understanding of multiculturalism and, collectivist cultures, because it has to be something that fits.
Yeah. I think a lot of people probably struggle with individualism versus the collectivist culture. Yeah. Creating boundaries. That is so fascinating. And another general question I wanted to ask was about cultural appropriation. Like, this is your personal opinion. Like, me and you talking, and it's not your therapist's opinion, but I'm going to maybe I'm unpopular. Maybe I'm devil's advocate here, but I personally think we go a little too far with the idea of cultural appropriation. In your opinion, when is mimicking or adapting to another culture too far? Like when are you like, that's not appropriate?
In my personal opinion, from what I've gathered from reading and looking up what cultural appropriation is, I think it's about respecting it.
Okay.
Respecting what you're doing, having an understanding of what it is that you're doing or what you're taking from another culture and how it's being used against them or for them. For instance, there's this type of embroidery that's Palestinian. Traditionally, it's called tatreez, and it's cross stitching in a certain pattern, certain colors, certain design. And it's something that's very meaningful. You know, like I do tatreez to get connected to my roots and to continue that tradition that's being lost, being taken away, being literally taken away. Like, and when I say that, I mean, like, people are finding old Palestinian dresses with that on there and selling it for cheap, or selling it or even destroying it to try to erase the fact that Palestinians were there. And so it's very meaningful, right? To this type of art is very meaningful. And so when I see some very popular brand that they were mass distributing this dress or the design of it, like they were taking the design and putting it on the runway.
That's insane. Yeah.
And someone's response might be like, oh, look, they're celebrating it. But they're celebrating it. But at the same time, are they giving credit to it? Are they saying the word Palestinian? Are they saying this is Palestinian? Because when everywhere else, they're literally erasing that. Okay. Not only that, but like, okay, so you're going to take the designs and then you're not going to make any sort of statement about it. But also a lot of these companies, their money is profiting off of the oppression of the Palestinians. So in that sense, that cultural appropriation, I'm very against.
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely wrong. Especially with food. When I see like when they take hummus and they make it like chocolate sprinkled hummus. I'm like, what are you? Stop. That's chocolate dip. Okay. Just call it chocolate dip. I want to eat it. I still eat it, but don't call that hummus, you know?
Right.
Like that's just one example of many of what a lot of companies do. So I absolutely understand how companies exploit cultures. I guess a specific thing in mind, like Halloween. I don't understand why it's an issue if you want to dress up like another culture, because you literally love the dresses and the looks. And if you have good intention and respect and you genuinely just love that culture, why would that be an issue? I think I was talking about with someone, I wanted like this a geisha or Asian outfit. And they're like, you should definitely not do that. And I was like, but I literally, that's why I love it. It's awesome. But I guess.
Well, what is the point of Halloween?
I guess like for me personally, I'm always ready to party. So I guess that's a good question. What is the point of me wearing that outfit? But for me, it's just like, I don't even
know. But like, what's the meaning of Halloween? Like Halloween has a certain meaning in our culture. Halloween is a time to not be you. Halloween is a time to be something that's kind of scary and wear a costume that can like, you know, not be you and maybe even be kind of jokey and funny about things.
Yeah.
You know, so like you love is it geisha outfit?
Yeah, it's like geisha. It's like the kimono with like the
Is that Japanese?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm not too familiar with it, but Japanese. Okay, so you could totally respect the culture, and I'm sure like Japanese people would love you to learn about what a geisha is and the fabric, and maybe do some research into it and learn how, you know, kind of respect the history behind it, and then maybe consider wearing it. Just about respecting it, knowing when and where. You know, like for instance, like my Palestinian thobe, like. There's different styles of thobes, you know, like if I wear at a wedding, I'm not going to wear the one that you wear just taking care of the kids. If I was to wear the outfit of taking care of the kids at a wedding, it would be seen as disrespectful. Like, are you serious? This is a special occasion. You know what I mean? You know, so like if you're wearing a geisha outfit on a day when everyone is, this is my own interpretation of it. Of how it could be taken as disrespectful. If you're wearing a geisha outfit on Halloween when it's time to be silly and fun and scary and like make, you know, kind of partying, it might be seen as disrespectful. Whereas maybe.
Okay, that honestly makes a lot more sense. Because for me, I think we're just in such a cancel culture. I find it really annoying because we can't learn. Because if you tried something, if you do something, everyone's like, oh my God, you're so canceled. The idea of canceling is actually worse than the act of the person doing it, because now we can't ever learn. And so like, and that's what I want on this podcast. I want it to be very free and open and ask questions like this. Like, and now I like, I just learned, I was like, okay, maybe that actually does make more sense. Like how you explained it.
Yeah. Cause like it's true. If I was to just cancel you and be like, you're wrong, then we couldn't have a dialogue about it. And then I could grow from this dialogue and you can grow from my dialogue.
Exactly.
And it's like, I personally, I don't really agree with cancel culture, and that might be an unpopular opinion, but me personally, I believe that people can grow and change and learn better.
And and it also creates this energy of, I'm gonna do what I want. Like, if I'm just going to be shunned for anything, I might as well do exactly what I want and be completely racist or be completely this or that. So I
like cancel whatever you want and just like live in your bubble.
Yes. So it's not inclusive. It doesn't help people learn. So that's why I definitely wanted to ask that question, because I never understood why some things are totally okay. Yeah. To wrap up this part, we are recording this in April, and I learned off your Instagram, I didn't even know, that this April, it is Arab or Swane Appreciation Month. And what is your personal advice how can someone get closer to Arab culture and learn more about it?
Oh my gosh. How can someone get closer to their Arab culture and learn more about it? Actually, go into Instagram and start following some Arab channels. Yeah. I mean, there's so many. I mean, one of my favorites is to follow Maya Hussein on Instagram. Yes. You could follow Caucasian Arab on Instagram. Ooh, Caucasian Arab. That's my friend Rima too. I mean, once you go there, you'll start to find so many different people to follow. And that's how you can kind of learn and understand the culture a little bit. I mean, go to Arabic restaurants.
Oh my God.
Learn about the music. Look up the old music and the old dancing. Another way is history and reading books on the history and I mean, like YouTube too. There's so many different places nowadays.
And what's your favorite Arabic word that you could teach everyone?
Oh my God, I love Arabic. How am I going to choose? That's hard.
I know.
The first word that came to mind was habibti. Like when someone says that word to you, it means my love to a female. It's very loving and romantic, or it could be very loving from a family member. But the H is like this deep, like habibti. And if you say it really like smooth, it's like habibti.
I love that.
Habibti. It's like very sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That is so beautiful. But so we're now going to get into our travel story.
Yes. So, okay. I was in Morocco and I went to a Turkish bath. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I am obsessed with spas. So I want to go.
Yeah. So this was like a spa, you could say, very different. And they had explained to me what this was about, but I was excited, but nervous. So what you do is there's like 3 rooms, and I think every spa is different, but in this particular one, there were 3 rooms, and one you get naked. And then in the next room, it's like a sauna. So it's warm and it feels good. And you just kind of chill and take your time, whatever. And then in the next room, it's a little warmer. You're just sitting around, just like enjoying time. You're talking with your friends, like just relaxing. And then in the next room, it's the hottest room, right? And in this room, all surrounding the walls were sinks, like faucets.
Ooh.
And so what you would do is you would bring like a bucket or something, and you sit in front of the sink and you wash your hair, shave your legs, and you're like pouring the water over you. And when it's your turn, there's like 3 or 4 ladies who are also naked, sitting on the ground in the middle of this entire room.
Okay.
And when it's your turn, they pull you in to be next to them and they scrub the shit out of you.
Oh.
Yeah. So me and my American friends are there, and I was the first person to go. And when I tell you, like, I mean, first of all, it was a great experience because like I was scrubbed to death, but also like some areas are sensitive. And the lady, when it was time for my turn, they all looked at me. They're like, Elizabeth, it's your turn. And I looked at them. I was like, no. I was like, because I'm very modest. So I wasn't fully naked. Like I had my underwear on and I was like covered up like this. I'm like, oh my God, no. I was like,
they couldn't wait to scrub you. They couldn't wait.
They couldn't wait. Exactly. And all my friends like, it's your turn. Like, go. And I was like, don't look, please look the other way. And the lady was apparently trying to get my attention and I didn't know it. And all of a sudden she grabs my leg and yanks me. And the ground is soapy and wet and I get yanked like a freaking baby. This lady is pretty big and clearly strong. And she yanked like she was literally treating me like a baby. She flipped me over and scrubbed my leg. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God. I'm looking over at my friends. I'm like, please don't look. Please stop looking. She was scrubbing my inner thighs, my butt, my stomach, my under boobs. She literally like flipped my boob over and was scrubbing. And I'm like, oh my God, everyone's watching. It was like I was a literal baby.
Oh my God. I'm dying.
It was so
I'm just
funny.
like, imagine like the eye contact between you and your friend.
Exactly. I'm like, oh my God, stop looking.
Oh my God. That's so funny. Like, did you know that was going to happen when you went in?
I knew they would scrub me. I didn't know that rough. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize like, do I lift my arm up for her? No, she grabbed my arm and lifted it up for me. She flipped my boobs. She like turned me around. I was sliding all over the floor. And then also like she's naked too. So like as she's scrubbing my arm, her boob is slapping my arm too. I'm like, okay. This is just the experience.
Oh
you know?
my God. Imagine all the other like Moroccan people just watching you. No expression. They're just like,
they're probably like, first of all, like, why is she making it a big deal and laughing about this? They're like, this is my Tuesday, you know?
My Tuesday. Let her do that to you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love that story. Oh my God. That is so funny.
It was funny.
That image.
And my skin was so smooth afterwards.
Yeah, after.
That's the smoothest
Were your
I've
friends
ever felt.
scared after you though, where they're like, shit. Because honestly, you kind of were good to go first because you didn't have to watch you get flipped around like that.
I know. I wish I didn't because everyone was watching me. That was so, I mean,
but they are watching you knowing they're about to be slapped around like a turkey. Like they're about to go next.
But the thing is, after all the other people went, like I was just sitting there pouring water on myself, like relaxing. I wasn't even paying attention to them.
No, on the background.
And I'm like,
flipped around.
They're being flipped. I don't even know if they were flipped around the same way. I have no idea.
I love how she grabbed your leg. She was like, come here.
Yeah. She just dragged me across on a sled. I was like, okay, I guess it's time. And they were talking amongst themselves. So I'm sure they were like, who is this girl? Like, why is she like acting so weird? And I'm wondering now, maybe if they were wondering like, why is she acting like a baby? Like she's just letting me flip her. You know, I wonder if they were like, lift up your arm and I didn't, you know, because they're speaking to me in their language. So, and I didn't know what they were saying. Like, so they're like, I'll just lift it for her, you know? Like maybe I wasn't supposed to do that.
Oh my God. You're so right.
I'll never know.
I want to know who else has been to these spas. I want to talk to someone who works at these spas. Be like, what? Yeah. Was I supposed to just be like passive in this experience? Like,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I go to Korean spas, which are my favorite.
Oh,
and it's kind of similar. No, it's nothing like that. You're not going to be flipped around. Like, actually, I've never done a scrub. You can get a scrub. Yeah, I have no idea.
Like with the glove,
actually.
And let me tell you, when they do that, they scrub the crap out of you, and then they put it in the water to like clean it off.
Oh,
there was so much gross.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't know I was that gross, but I did. But I felt so clean and smooth. Yeah. You got to do it.
Okay, I've never been like
you got to do it.
I think you can get hardcore scrub like that in the Korean spas. But the Korean spas, same thing. You go into the saunas, you're naked. There's different baths, but then the best part is when you go to the main areas where you put on a little prison suit. It's like usually like a little outfit, and it's like co-ed at this point because you're not naked anymore. You put on this outfit, and there's different rooms, and these different rooms have different minerals in them. So some are completely so it's like, imagine like a hut, like a stone hut. You go in, and each room is completely designed by a different mineral. Like this designs all over. There's jade, there's charcoal, there's ice room, there's a stone room, and it has different temperatures, and you're supposed to just go in and out of the rooms. You can go grab Korean food, you can go swimming, you can go to the gym, the spa, and you just go in and out of these rooms. The longest I spent there, I think, was like 16 hours, which sounds insane to people who've never gone. But you,
what?
I know.
16?
You sleep there. So you can just nap. You get a little blankie, little toothbrush.
There's no time limit?
No. So it's 24 hours. So you pay about $30 for 24 hours. And sometimes they up the charge around 4 a.m. But yeah, and they're all over the world. So when I travel, I look for, they're called gym. I'm going to call this wrong. I'm so sorry. Gym Jelabong or Korean spas. And every time I travel, I go there because it's cheaper than hotels, and I can go to the sauna.
And just stay there?
Yes. So,
oh my God, what an experience.
Yeah. In the Philippines, I stayed at a Gym Jelabong. I stayed there like 5 times instead of a hotel. And I slept there. And they had there at the Manila one, their pools were made out of different teas. So they had like a jasmine tea, a green tea pool, I had a waterfall. Yo.
Whoa. But where do you
Aquarium.
sleep?
On the floor. So you sleep on the floor with a little pillow and a blankie and your robe, but the floors are heated. So it's just like very relaxing.
Wow.
Dude. Yeah. So, and then the best one's in Atlanta, which is not far from you. It's called Jeju Spa.
I think I've seen this.
Yeah. It's my favorite thing to do. And whenever I travel, I always just check first to see if there's Korean spas. So that's another travel hack.
Cool thing. I'm definitely going to try that out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so go to the Turkish spas if you want to get scrubbed down like a baby, and then Korean spas. But okay, to wrap up, I wanted to dive into your therapy business just one more time. Where can we find you? Again, can you repeat what it's called? And especially if you're an Alabama listener, if you want to have Elizabeth as your therapist, like how can we go about that?
So I have a Facebook page. It's called Your Story Therapy LLC. And then I have an Instagram page. It's your_story_therapy store. Underscore LLC or however it goes. Your Story Therapy on Instagram. And you can go to my website. My website is yourstorytherapyllc.com. You can message me there or you can call me, whatever. But I'm in Alabama and I can only do therapy right now with people who are in Alabama. So yeah.
So I mean, even if you're not in Alabama, but you find all this stuff interesting, especially like if you're like, wow, I didn't realize how much culture and therapy had to do with each other. Like, I feel like your Instagram is the best way to just keep, because you do like a lot. I just listened to your live video the other day.
But you can interact, even if you're not in Alabama, just message me, tell me what you think. Like, let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah. And I definitely want you on for more travel stories. And this is a travel story episode. So how this podcast works, if it's your first time listening, is in each season, we'll do a travel story. And then the next episode will be a country. So I land on a country and I tell a story from that country, or if someone's been there, we talk about their experience. But is there a country that you want to be added to a guest list for? Is there countries that you're interested in? You could either have been there and want to talk about it, or I do the research. So if you're like, I like Madagascar, but I want to learn about it, I could put you down. Are there countries you're interested to learn about?
I am interested. I would love to learn more about some Asian countries.
Yeah.
I would love to learn more about like Korea and Thailand. And I mean, China, I don't even know much about China or Japan, or I would love to learn about those countries.
Yeah. So whatever an Asian country, I'll just have you down as a guest that could be.
I would love to.
Yay. Okay, cool.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And then just to wrap up, I have like business corner. Want to just ask our listeners to please DM and email your favorite travel stories to be read aloud. Kind of like Elizabeth's, just like scary or fun, short or long. Just this is a big season. We have lots of travel stories, and I definitely need more written in. And I don't want to go find some off like Reddit. Like I want to hear your stories. So if y'all want to write them in, that's super helpful. DM the Instagram at culturecultshow or email culturecultshow@gmail.com. Lastly, if you can please just rate and review on your favorite platform or whatever you're listening on. I know it sounds like, oh, whatever. It really makes a big difference. It takes like 2 seconds and it helps the algorithm. I don't know much about social media, but it helps me jump to like, if you type in the show name, it comes up before others. So it just helps. It just really helps. And but I think my favorite thing I learned a lot today. I think my favorite thing I've learned, I didn't know about the Swane stuff, and I loved learning about the collectivist culture and just hearing about your experience. Just honestly your experience like growing up, kind of being in two worlds. And the Turkish spot, that was my
Thanks for listening.
What was something that you loved learning about today?
I loved learning about definitely the Korean spa. Oh my God, that's super cool. And I was glad to talk about the cancel culture and how like sometimes it's not really helpful, and it's not really fair to not allow people the opportunity to grow.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to cover that today, and I hope y'all really enjoyed it. And this was a special episode, so this was just a special I did with Elizabeth. You'll have to wait for season 2. But thank you so much, Elizabeth, for coming on.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you so much.
Yes, and cheers, y'all.
Bye.